Okay. And then we're going to...
Excuse me while
Is this how we're going to start this one? You're going to... That is a good line.
It is. There's
Blazing Saddles doesn't work for me on the same level as some people.
Yeah, no,
it's
me
really
neither.
good. Like I don't. Fart jokes aren't my thing. And
Don loves it, and for me, it's like it's hit or miss. But there's
it's
some
hit or
really,
miss, but the hits
the hits are really hard, and the misses are huge.
Also equally.
So pretty
hard.
much any scene with Mel Brooks and Harvey Korman is a huge miss.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Can't you see that man is a nit? I really like that line.
The whole Hedley Lamar thing,
that is
was
really
barely
bizarre.
funny the first time, and they do it,
just not
and
funny.
do it, and do it, and do it.
That's true. I haven't seen it in a while, but the line you just did, excuse me while I whip this out, is a great line.
That's brilliant.
You can't beat that.
Yeah. Anyway.
How do you do? We're about to unfold the story of
Ghost of Frankenstein.
My son, would you destroy that which I, your father, dedicated his life to creating? What if it had another brain?
Whose brain?
Your brain.
Power! What good is a brain without eyes to see?
I warned you that you might regret this action.
We've warned you.
You've been warned. Welcome back to Frankenstein Something, the podcast
Is that what we're doing?
does the thing with the deal.
Are we doing that?
I'm Bill Evenson.
We're still doing that?
No, I'm not doing it.
Oh, all right.
This is the last one.
Okay.
Welcome to the final episode. All new thrill. Oh, did you say the thing? I'm Bill Evenson.
I'm Tom Lang, and you join us for minute 41 of 42's all new thrills.
Next week's going to be an amazing
it's just going to be, but there
People are already waiting with anticipation.
There's parties set up, listening parties are set up. It's crazy. You thought the Super Bowl was big, or the Superb Owl, or whatever it's called. You thought that was
a pretty good Super Bowl.
Was it?
But today is, of course, February 29th, if you are a Patreon.
Yes.
And you are listening on the day this episode drops. And as we all remember, this is the anniversary of the death of, I just know this, that's not in my notes, this is the anniversary of the death of Davy Jones.
Yes, I was just going to if you didn't have it, I was going to mention it.
Yeah, because it's sad. It was a sad thing. And I'm sad that Davy Jones passed. By all indications, he doesn't seem like somebody I would have really cared to hang out with all that much or anything like that.
No, but I don't ever wish him any ill will. Don't wish him dead for sure.
No, I don't wish him dead. It's kind of nice that the anniversary of his death only comes around every 4 years.
Yeah, so we don't have to think about it for another 3
years. Another 3 years,
4 years, yeah.
Also on this date, Black Friday was released. What do we think of Black Friday? It's the hit or miss, kind of like Blazing Saddles.
It's even more hit or miss than Blazing Saddles, because the hits aren't as good as they are in Blazing Saddles, and the misses are just as bad. So
yeah, that's about right. That's how I feel about it.
You know, it's everybody. It's like, oh, what could have been if Karloff had played this part, Lugosi had played that part, and it's still a dumb movie. So who cares?
That's not awesome.
Who cares?
And the whole hype that they tried to build up around it with him in the closet. Looking back at it, it's just fascinating, really.
Stupidest publicity stunt ever.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, you're not a good enough actor to pull this scene off, so we're going to hypnotize you so that you think you're suffocating.
Yeah.
What kind of publicity stunt is that? And apparently, if you read the Mank book, Lugosi orchestrated it.
No, that makes sense.
Because it was like this friend of his or something.
Oh, really?
Something
I see.
like
well, that's interesting then. That actually gives it at least there's a point.
Yeah, does it though?
Well, just I don't mean it was, in retrospect, it was pointless.
Yeah.
But that's why they did it.
Yeah.
The fact that there was a reason they did it.
Yeah, all right.
Also, it's kind of not that kind of movie. Like if you said, we're hypnotizing Bela Lugosi so he can experience the terror of being locked in the closet, you go, oh boy, this is going to be a fucking, what is this movie going to be?
Yeah.
And it's a fucking gangster movie.
It's a gangster movie, and that scene is literally seconds.
Yeah, it's nothing.
And I don't know if they got such awful footage that they couldn't use it.
Yeah,
or because he was fucking hypnotized.
What the hell is he doing?
What is he doing?
Why is he making all this noise? This is weird. Not the first time, nor the last time studio executives would look at the screen and go, what is Bela Lugosi doing
here?
What
is going on?
What is going on? Anyway, also, a film that we like. We're not here to trash Black Friday. It's not even one of the...
No, you know what? I'll watch it just for the hell of it.
It's got the two of them in it. It's one...
And if you watch the...
You could find a worse Lugosi Karloff
pairing. You could.
But I don't even bother to watch those. I don't know if I've ever even seen them.
What
Like You'll Find Out.
You'll Find Out is actually kind of fun.
What's the other one then?
The Gift of Gab is
Gift of Gab.
absolutely pointless. It's not good for anybody.
I can't. I just can't.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's bad. But if you watch, I think there's one of these, Eureka from the UK has Black Friday on it. And the commentary on there, I don't know if it's Kim Newman or
whom.
it's Kim Newman or Jonathan Rigby.
Jonathan Rigby, yeah.
It's very insightful. You know, the one on the Shout Factory is kind of fun because it's probably Weaver or one.
I feel like it's not Weaver because he does Invisible Ray.
He does Invisible Ray.
Oh, but is that a separate?
No,
oh,
it's
who
on.
cares?
Yeah, I don't
Boy,
care,
my
whatever.
goodness.
Anyways,
Another
on.
film that was also released on this day. It was called The Walking Dead. It was released in 1930.
And it's still going. It's on.
And
it's
my
like,
calendar. Look what my calendar put on there. Put a pair of sneakers.
For
My
The Walking
calendar. When I
Dead.
put in Black Friday was released in 1940. It's just text.
Yeah.
But I put The Walking Dead released 1936.
It's a pair
It
of
puts a big
sneakers.
picture of sneakers.
That's
because
funny.
apparently it thinks I'm going for a walk on this day. Little does my
and you know it's been so successful.
You know what's
that
after that? I have something called appointment confirmation.
Perfect.
And if you are listening to this on Friday, when you're just
everybody
a normal
else
person,
is.
happy birthday, Lionel Atwill, born in 1885, which
how
would
old
make
would
him. Well, now
Lionel?
it's 2025 minus 1, so 1885 to 1925 would be 40 years. So 140, 139.
39 years old. It doesn't look a
Happy
day over 138. I mean, he looks
Lionel Atwill.
He looks great for his age.
Lionel, as Igor would call him. Or what do you say? Atwill. Yeah, I guess he would. Okay.
Anything
That's
else?
all I
No?
got. Well, I mean, Lou Costello will die on Sunday, the anniversary of Lou Costello's death.
Well, somebody should
comes up.
warn him.
Yeah, there you go. And then I guess Monday. Do I do the
Just
whole
keep
week?
going.
Monday, Martha O'Driscoll was born. If history is any guide, we'll get whoever that is wrong. Didn't we do that once? Because I
her?
noticed you beeped something that we decided somebody was Renfield in the Spanish Dracula.
Oh yeah,
And then
yeah,
you put
yeah.
buzzer sound. So I
yeah,
assume
because
it
we were
wasn't
totally
true.
totally
Who was
wrong.
it then?
He produced those 4
Oh,
Mexican
okay.
films with Karloff.
Oh, okay. All
I
right.
knew the name, but we were just so
Yeah,
way
we're
off.
way
of
off
it.
on
Yeah.
that. People come here for great information. And of course, Tuesday we'll be celebrating the release of Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman back in 1943.
Yep.
Wednesday is the anniversary of Edward Van Sloan's death, and
Well, there's
Lou
a big
Costello's
parade
birthday.
in Chaska.
That's right. To celebrate his death, or I suppose
Well,
it's kind of morbid.
to commemorate his.
Commemorate his life by celebrating his death. I don't know
I
how
don't
it
know
works.
that.
Yeah,
Martha O'Driscoll.
that's not.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think. She's in one of the.
Was it worth
Isn't she in like House of Frankenstein? Is that?
Martha O'Driscoll? Everybody I'm sure knows, Martha O'Driscoll is most famous for being in. After she became president of Appleton Electric. What's happening? What's career?
Is this the same
collegiate,
person?
Here Comes the Band. Mickey
on
Rooney,
earth
Wagon
is
Train,
going
Lil
on?
Abner, Mickey Rooney again. Reap the Wind.
You know, I'm just going to stop this.
Young
I'm gonna
and
start
Willing.
over.
I would. House of Dracula.
Yeah. Okay. House of
Oh,
Dracula. Yeah, she's the nurse, the pretty nurse or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. I know
All
it's
right,
one of the
that's
house
who
films.
she is. Yep, that's who that is. Okay.
Well, that's it.
Welcome back
join
to
us
the podcast.
Join us on Patreon. Oh, we're not done?
Well, I think we have to get started.
Oh, all
actually.
right. Well, we got 34 seconds of strict Faden mania at the beginning of this.
Yeah, it's some great stuff.
It's some good stuff, but I think I realized watching these in preparation, between this and Sun and the others moving forward, is why they're not quite as spectacular, other than the fact that the budgets are lower, the sets aren't impressive, but there's not a big thunderstorm raging as these are happening. And I think that gives the first 2 films a real kinetic energy that the rest of them don't have.
I love it. I think that's a really good point, especially in the first film.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it really
In the second
punches it up.
film, that's a little diluted for me by the score.
The
Actually.
score, yeah.
It's very bombastic during that
Right.
part. But yeah, the soundtrack of the lightning storm
and the
that's going
thunder
on
and-
outside is very atmospheric in a way that these guys in the basement.
They're just watching stuff spin around, and there's one thing spinning that looks like it's spinning so fast it's just gonna like fly off its axis.
Yeah. What is that?
I have no idea what it is.
Is it a saw? Is it a table
It's
saw?
a grinder wheel.
Grinder wheel? Could be a grinder wheel. There's one thing, and you used it as our
the image for last week.
The image for last week, and you painted it, you colored it, you colorized Frankenstein. Because we were watching that's in this minute too.
It's in this.
But you see it.
It's a neon.
It's right next to Atwell.
Yeah, it's a neon swirl.
Jackie called it a sucker. It's like a sucker.
Yeah,
like
lollipop,
a little kid's, like a lollipop.
Yeah. I don't know what possible practical use it has, other than it looked kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, there's no practical.
None of this has
use to any of it.
None of this. Yeah.
I have a hard time figuring out the geography of this room because I can't decide. Is everybody just looking at the monster? I suppose so.
I'm guessing that's what's happening.
Like it's easier in that's the other thing with Frankenstein is we know exactly what's going on all the time.
Right.
We know everybody's looking more or less.
Well, and
now it's like
the
weird.
geography of that laboratory, Frankenstein and Bride, we're so accustomed to it. I think we spend so much time with it, and it's so much better photographed. Let's be honest.
And they hang out there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the first film, they're in that room for half an hour.
Half the film is the first half of the film is a lot.
Maybe
of
not half an hour, I guess, because he's already up and at him by minute 32.
Up and at him.
He's a Frankenstein by then.
Yeah, he is.
So I assume we're not going to go through these in any kind of order, but
no, I looked in that Ken Strickfaden book, and not long enough to really come to
up on anything.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I don't recall seeing before, which looks almost like it almost looks like a fish tank, sort of up on end.
Oh, right.
It has two wires in it. And
there's a little Jacob's ladder.
I'm trying not to use my fingers because it's
arc
work.
Running up between them.
Arc running between the two wires, so that's kind of cool. But mainly, it's just the typical stuff. And it all looks good. I'm not complaining.
No, it's all just visual razzle dazzle, and that's all it needs to be.
Yeah.
None of it needs to have a practical application.
Exactly. Yeah.
Curse of Frankenstein has that generator, which is an actual thing.
Right.
And you see that, I think, through almost all of the Hammer Frankenstein films.
Because they bought one, so
we're fucking using it every time we can.
This is why we're making this movie.
Yeah. Somebody bought one of these generators.
Make back our money on this.
Les Bowie brought that in, and we're going to use it.
Les Bowie?
He's one of the special effects guys there.
There's a shot that I like, which is Igor wincing and putting his hand up to his face as if he might get burned or shocked.
Well, I think that it's so bright.
It's so bright,
the
something
arcs
like
are
that.
So bright,
and it does remind me that that's one of the aspects of these films, and so far to date in all of these films. During this scene, which we've had in all these films, you've got to have like a hunchbacked weirdo wincing and flinching.
Igor's 2 for 2 now.
And Igor's 2 for 2, and before that it was Carl, who was also the other guy.
It was also Fritz, yeah.
And then I got to say, immediately after that shot, we get a wide shot of the room.
Yeah, which
is not wide enough to see Atwell.
I was going to say it's just not taking in the full set.
Yeah,
it does give a little bit better sense of the geography of it.
Right, and the other thing about it is it looks great. Yeah. So it's like it's showing some restraint on their part that they only put it on for a second because it's like, wow, look at this. This is really happening. Because without that context, it's what do you call second unit, right?
Yeah.
You don't need Bela Lugosi on set to film that little fucking
they just sent the guy in on a Saturday and they
you would think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for that long shot, you see Lugosi and Hardwick. But I think even Cheney, but I'd have to go back and double check.
Yeah, I think you do.
Okay.
It's shots like that, and I think just how kinetic this scene is edited, that gives this the edge over its avatar in Son of Frankenstein.
Okay.
Which is kind of lifeless, I gotta say.
I'm trying to even remember it.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
It's a very uninteresting set.
Like when I first start thinking about it, what I find more compelling is the scenes where he's looking in the X-ray machine and 3 bullets in his heart.
6 bullets.
6 bullets. 26 bullets in his heart. Let's shoot some more. Bang, bang. Look at it. 28.
More bullets than heart.
More bullets. Benson, more bullets.
Not enough bullets in his heart.
He's got a Tommy gun. Right into his heart. Look at the heart is. No. Not in his heart. He's only got one heart. Okay, that's
now. See, this is where AI would come in really handy.
Perfect. Then there's a shot of Igor with the sounds and the flashing lights around him, he starts to smile. Oh, actually, no, I'm skipping parts.
That's later.
Okay.
But first there's
later than what?
Well, because I was going to say there's a few insert shots of Junior.
That's what I was going to say.
Of Junior close up looking at him laying down. You can really see the edge of the makeup. It's pretty bad.
Oh, okay. I didn't even notice that.
But by this point, they weren't giving Jack Pierce sufficient time to do anything right.
Yeah.
So except the Wolfman, apparently.
Yeah, good point. But what I noticed about that shot.
But also in that shot is the smoke wafting up from where the electrodes are, which is a repeat of what happened in Sun.
Sure.
And in Sun, we knew that all that was that Karloff just set his cigarette aside.
Set his cigarette
like,
down.
you're going to get this shot? Okay, and just set it out of shot.
Yep.
Here, it's probably a deliberate effect.
I think so.
Yeah.
It was deliberate last time.
It was.
But the other thing is Cheney starts to move.
Yeah, he's twitching.
He starts to actually move. And what he does looks like gas to me. Looks like he has gas. It's not working.
He and
whatever we're supposed to be doing here is not working.
He and Broderick Crawford went out the night before, and he's paying paying the price for it now.
Is this around that time?
Oh, yeah, they were, yeah.
Okay, well. And then we see a shot of Igor smiling.
Yep.
So instead of flinching.
That's the last scene then, right?
That's the last shot.
The last shot as it fades out.
Yeah, because that's what I like about it is that you see him start to smile.
Yeah.
And then it fades. So it
fades out just as he's doing some Groucho eyebrows.
Yeah, he is. I suppose.
I almost laughed.
That I could do without. Yeah, but I do like the idea of it, which is that tells us everything we need to know. It's a cool show and don't tell moment.
It's also, we're getting some of the old Igor back a little bit.
Okay.
Which we will see coming up in future weeks here.
Meaning?
He's not as big of a old lady as he's been through the rest of the first part of this movie.
An old lady?
Oh, they're going to find out. He's walking around wringing his hands, afraid
That's true.
We've talked about how out of character.
That's a really good point, yeah. We are going to get old Igor back.
And in the next...
Starting now.
The next scene we see him in after this, he's old Igor.
So in a way, this scene brings Igor back to life.
Yes. Yeah. Nice.
Yep, nailed it. Nailed it! Leave that in.
Yeah.
You're going to cut that out?
What? The little...
No, all of it.
Yeah.
Just cut the whole idea out.
Okay.
And then what happens?
We
lap dissolve.
No, we
fade out.
Crossfade, yeah.
So a crossfade is when you fade to black
and
then
black
back in.
Yeah, and it holds for black for a few seconds. And this seems to be a thing they used to do frequently in the 30s and 40s when they would do a crossfade, is there'd be a few seconds of black and now usually much more rapid of fade out, fade in. We fade up on Elsa pacing in Ludwig's study.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
He's sitting at his desk.
Yeah.
What do I think about it?
I don't know.
There's not much to think about it. It's a brief scene.
Yeah.
Fine.
But it almost seems like, and I had meant to look at the script on that.
Yeah, I never.
But
like I said, I was planning to be out of town this weekend, so
let's look at the script. But I think
my preparation for this was
minimal. Is this roughly where we're at?
Yeah, it should be where not that, but the other little bookmark.
Oh, okay. So that should come to roughly there?
It might be a little after, so you may want to go back. So I think I read through it all, but
I see. So that's the end of it.
I didn't have time to...
Because here's the reason I'm going through all this is because it seems to me like this scene is edited weird because they don't speak like they're actually having a conversation.
I was going to get to that as we got into the dialogue.
You know what? I don't think it's in here.
It's not. Okay. I don't think so.
Yeah. So it seems like there's dialogue that's cut, and
it's either cut or it's just been jumbled out of order, or both, or it's just
What's interesting, I was watching with Jackie, and she said she thought it was kind of cool that Elsa's freaking out, and Frankenstein calms her down very quickly. Like she liked that about the scene.
Okay.
And I said, well, I can't say that on my podcast because that'll sound kind of sexist. If I'm like, man, he put her in her place.
Yep.
But that's at least the perception she took to it, which makes a bit more sense than anything I thought of. Which is she's freaking out, and it's like, well, I'd like to see more of this conversation because it's
well, she's freaking out, and he says Elsa,
and then she stops. Yeah,
and she's in a different position then.
Yeah, that's true.
Because she says it all seems so weird and ghastly, and he's sitting kind of with his head in his hands.
Yeah,
and I can't stand it any longer. I tell you.
I like that. That's soap opera
and I know how he feels.
I can't stand it any longer.
Especially with her slight accent that she has.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's perfect. But keeping in mind that at this point she has met the monster and she knows that he's there.
Yeah, she knows more or less what's going on
She
here
knows
now.
Kettering's dead. She knows the monster is there.
She knows Igor is up to no good.
And that her father is going to find a way. That was the last scene, I think. He's going to find a way. Must find a way. But it's also ghastly. Anyway, and you, Father, something's happened to you. And he looks down like a sad sack. He just looks really...
Well, he says Elsa, and that, that kind of...
Shuts it down
Well,
for a second.
she's standing with her hands on his desk, hunched over him.
Okay.
And he kind of looks up like Droopy the dog, Elsa.
Yeah.
And you, Father, something's happened to you. It seems as if a great cloud has come over you. You don't seem like my father at all.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't, but that's...
That's true.
That's due down to the casting, but that's...
Yes. And the acting, because he doesn't act like... Well, I guess he'd.
He doesn't act like a Frankenstein.
Not really.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's weird, too, because the last note I have here, and I guess maybe, I don't know if this is
because we're coming up to the last...
Oh, that's right, because the next line is, you must trust me, my dear. He does the Ludwig fingers.
Yeah.
He's got his fingers
working,
working on
that's called a Hardwick when you're...
That's doing a Hardwick.
Yeah, give me a Hardwick. Well,
isn't the Hardwick the way you turn around after you close the door?
Pirouette over to the lab.
And we'll have more to say about that in coming weeks.
Yeah. You must trust me, my dear, and the minute ends.
And then the minute ends, which is...
And you had commented on how you liked how that's where the minute ended, because it appears like he's going to say something else.
Yeah, so people who are this is going to be the greatest segue in the history of our podcast. People who are members of our Patreon Wise Ass group will they actually receive a copy of what minute I use to watch the minutes, because I tend to put them on a loop of however many we're doing. It's almost always 5.
Yep.
And I put the minute number up in the corner so I can remember to take a note of whatever it is. But I also put a second of it's now 2 seconds of black at the beginning and end, because the software I use will just roll through and I'll miss stuff.
Miss something, yeah.
But what we just watched wasn't like that. So he says, what is the line? You must understand, my dear, or something like that.
You must trust me.
You must trust.
Yeah, you must trust me.
Trust me, my dear.
Yeah.
And then he's just still looking at her, and I had no idea the minute it ended. I was waiting for the next line because it didn't cut to black.
Well, he kind of
and he's paused.
Paused.
He's looking up at her.
So it almost looks like it got stuck or
something like that.
It paused itself. Yeah. Got any more questions, wise ass?
All right. That sound can only mean one thing. That sound of the theme of got any wise ass comments, wise asses.
What this is called anymore.
Can only mean one thing. It's time for got any, which you don't say. You don't say got any wise ass comment. Maybe can we do another? What should we do? How long are we?
We're 3 hours already, but that's okay.
You can't believe I was worried that I didn't have enough notes. Christ's sake.
Well, that minute is weird because like over half of it is just whirligigs and things like that.
That's true. Yeah.
Anyway. So you want me to do a new soundbite?
Well, I want you to do whatever you want, because you're going to have to cut it in, right?
Yeah.
Unless you want me to cut it in.
Well, I'll have to create a new little
sound.
Yeah, because I just plop that in every time.
What I call it, if for what it's worth, and you don't have any obligation to call it the same thing as me. That'd be even better if we were
two different
fighting
things.
over for the rest of the history of the podcast. Got any wise ass comments, wise asses. That's what I call it.
Okay.
Go ahead. Oh, you're not going to do it? Oh, you're going to do it later.
I might do it. I might do it in the privacy of my own home.
I think this is even the right one. Yeah, of course I want.
Right out of the gate?
Yeah, of course I fucked it up because I had to go and say something. Yeah, open the app. See, that's what's happening. It's just like we talked about. It's got to open the app.
Yep.
Well, this is for last week. Oh, great.
Oh, what a disaster.
I guess this must have been after we recorded.
I'm just going to read I'm just reading my email
When did we? All right. Did we do this comment from Mike Herman? Barton Yarbo? Yeah, we did that.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, so then there's another comment on that same minute from Background Noise Comic. That's the name of the Patreon.
Oh, cool. Okay.
They just don't make and this is not from this week, but last week, but it works equally well here. They just don't make spinning science wheels like they used to. The neon hypno disc with the Flash Gordon sound effect just doesn't do it for me. I see your point.
Yeah.
It's basically what we talked about.
Yeah.
It doesn't match up to what we saw in the first film or the second film.
Or the third.
Or the third film.
Or the rest of this,
Maybe the
or the rest of this
or
laboratory, really, because it does look like something more out of a science fiction film than a Frankenstein film.
Yeah, there you go.
The neon tube
Yeah.
is so out of the Frankenstein wheelhouse, I think,
Yeah, yeah.
for whatever.
I'm sorry, now I was doing something and I didn't hear exactly what you said.
I said the neon tube is so far out of the Frankenstein wheelhouse.
Yeah, it doesn't...
It looks more like a 50s sci-fi thing than
Yeah,
it does
that does make sense.
40s horror movie.
But how do you feel about the idea that that's what this series does, is transition from one to the other?
It does. I mean,
Yeah.
certainly
And so
we're
does the
seeing...
Invisible Ray,
Oh, the Invisible Ray is sort of
which is from
its
the
own
30s.
its own animal. It's kind of cool because it's sort of this 50s sci-fi movie made in the 30s.
30s, yeah.
Well, and we're looking at a movie that is an entirely different style of filmmaking than there was in 1931. 11 years later, it's a whole different animal.
It's a factory.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Uncle Carl and Junior aren't there to coddle and allow James Whale to do whatever he wants.
Yep.
He would have never made Frankenstein in this Universal.
Yeah.
So we're looking at, a whole different studio, a whole different style of filmmaking. These movies weren't made the same as they were in the 1930s.
Yeah.
In terms of style and direction and lighting and all that. That's why these probably play better on TV than, when we were kids, than the ones from the 30s do, because they're much more cinematic, more operatic. All those Laemmle era, even smaller things like Werewolf of London, have that look, that more of a gothic look to them.
Yeah.
By the time we're into the 40s here, stuff looks like a TV show.
It does. It's lit like a TV show.
Yeah. Well, it's because they're
staged like a TV show.
Because they're shooting them much more rapidly. They're not taking the time to light it. They're not going to let Earl Kenton spend a day lighting something where Laemmle's would have let James Whale spend a week lighting something.
Makes sense. All right. Some other comments. What is it? Will Hohenstein? Hohenstein. And I hope this isn't a repeat because I'm just all over the place. Because this also isn't a wise-ass comment about this minute.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sorry. Tom says he's related to some Hohensteins.
Yeah,
Perhaps.
Hohenstein.
Did we already do this?
No.
Perhaps Tom is a distant relative of my family. I was born and raised in Minnesota, but we moved to Florida, where I currently reside, when I was 14. So what he doesn't say is how old he is now. So I'm going to assume he's 15.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you know who this person is?
I don't.
I guess we don't know.
No, I don't.
Any comment? Stay away, please. You're getting too close. You're freaking Tom out.
Yeah. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. No, I mean, it's entirely possible. Hohenstein's, I'm related through my father. What's the next comment?
Yeah, background noise comic says, and listen, we endorse the background noise comic. I'm not sure what that is, but maybe we should look it up.
No, it sounds like it's, I'm intrigued now.
Listeners, Franken-minions.
Oh, I like that.
I like it.
that.
But I don't know if I can entirely... Frankenstein minions? Franken-minions. I don't know.
Frankenstein minions, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says, by the way, Patreon supporters are patrons, right? And I don't know if that's a reference
Yes,
to
I
something
think
we
that's.
said.
I think that we've referred to them numerous times as Patreons, which is inaccurate.
Yeah, no, the just so we're clear, I am familiar with the term patron, and it's very it is not lost on me that what Patreon is essentially a patron of the arts.
Yes.
The only thing about that is it's not quite the same, because an actual patron of the arts would supply enough funding to actually get the art
keep
made.
this thing going. Yeah.
No offense to our Patreon.
We're not dissing anybody here, but
the funding could be.
Throw a little more our way.
Do whatever you want to do. And then he says, and this again, still just to comment on one of our recent episodes. I never noticed Kurt Vonnegut looked like Boris Karloff and vice versa.
Invisible Ray. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's right. That does make sense when you put it like that. All right, good. Okay, so now
normally Karloff walking down the street and Vonnegut walking down the street, you're not going to mistake the two for each other.
Right, except that curly hair.
Except for the Invisible Ray.
All right, so let's just do the actual thing we came here to do. Or I'm probably going to do it again now. Yep, I'm doing it again now. This is from a few weeks ago. I'm just going to do it. We're not doing this the minute. We'll get to the comments for this minute.
Okay.
The deleted scene makes sense. So he's in response to minute 38. Igor awakens grasping his horn.
Oh yeah, there was a deleted scene between Bomer and Igor.
Oh, from the script that
we read out, yeah.
Okay, the deleted scene makes sense, and the movie is short enough where it probably should have been added. That being said, I buy that Igor just seeing Bomer's mopey face is enough for him to know he can get what he wants. wants.
Yeah,
I like
no,
that.
I think that's very true too.
Yeah, I like that very much. I
Yeah,
think that's.
I think Boomer is, because of whatever happened in the past, so we never really do find out.
Yeah, which is kinda
and that's
cool.
fine. That's kind of cool. I like
Yeah.
that. He's vulnerable enough, and Frankenstein has been such a dick to him already that he's more than willing to, like, yeah, okay, you want to fuck this up for him? I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember if we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, we are. We are in that
a little bit.
regard.
Okay.
But
But
it's
we all
not-
know what's going on.
It's not like it's any big. We're not doing a huge spoiler here.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right, so now on to the wise ass comments.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, you're gonna love the wise ass comment. Here's the comment. Mike Herman says, "I don't have a wise ass comment on the episode, but I'd like an off-track tangent to get you guys on the record about the backstage Monty Python drama that's come up recently."
Oh, yeah.
You know what's interesting about that is listeners won't be surprised to learn I've been sharing that
Yeah.
with Tom.
Yeah.
Because you're not on Twitter, and
I'm
God
not
bless
on
you, you don't
anything.
need to be. But I did set up a notification to be notified when Eric Idle tweets now.
Okay.
Because
Well, and I've seen them in the news.
Oh, yeah?
They're in my news feed.
Okay. That
Anything
makes
Monty
sense.
Python
I
shows up in
suppose.
my news feed.
That makes sense. Okay. So the way I understand it, I don't know. Do you want to explain it? You tell me what you think's going on.
I don't even know because
Somebody asked Eric Idle something
about
the typical shit about Monty
the
Python,
money,
and he's
the
like,
money piling in that they should have, and Idle's like, there isn't any.
"There's no money." Yeah.
We've never made a ton of money off of this.
Yeah.
And after that O2 show, I'm not sure I
Believe it?
believe that, but
Yeah.
okay.
Well, the other part of that is they got to split it 5 ways
They got
at
split
least,
it,
maybe
well,
6.
4 ways now, but I'm sure that the estates.
Well, the O2 shows I meant.
Oh, that, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that Chapman's estate and now Jones's are still part of that.
Sure.
They would have to be.
Yeah.
And so what Idle intimated is that John Cleese fucked up their management somehow and
Yeah,
brought in.
Idle in particular had something. I think it was about. So what is it? He wrote Spam-A-Lot, which
Yes.
is the Monty Python and the Holy Grail musical.
Yes.
But he also wrote the Life of Brian musical.
Yeah, well,
No,
it wasn't a
that.
musical. It was sort of a oratory kind of a thing.
Oh, was
It was
it?
like a concert.
Oh,
He's
okay.
not the Messiah. It was called.
Yeah.
It wasn't like staged. It was just people
Oh.
singing, and if you want, you can borrow the Blu-ray if you
Okay,
want.
yeah, maybe I will. But whatever, I thought it was something along those lines that Cleese or somebody had shut it down or something.
Yeah, he wasn't asked about it or something like that,
Yeah.
and everybody else participated.
There was a point, if you look at, I think before the O2 shows, there was that Monty Python Almost the Truth
Yeah.
documentary, which I recommend. I just love it. I've seen
I do
it 3 or
too.
4 times.
You can skip over like Russell Brand and Steve Coogan
Yeah, that's
shooting
true.
their
That
mouths
shit
off.
doesn't-
Who
yeah,
cares?
Russell
But
Brand,
has
there's
nothing to say.
Nothing interesting. But there's to the documentary's credit, I've seen worse.
No, I think it's very.
All of that.
I think it's very good.
But yeah, what I mean is there are other Monty Python documentaries where you sit down and this is gonna be great, and all it is talking heads talking about what we already know.
Yeah, I don't need
the South Park kids to tell me it's
no,
funny.
not at all. And I don't need Dan Aykroyd's opinion.
Dan Aykroyd's
I don't
opinion
give
on
a shit.
anything.
Yeah.
Except maybe UFOs or ghosts or some
Ghosts.
shit. So then what happens in that is they tell the story honestly, and at the end, Eric Idle looks supremely fucking pissed off.
Yeah.
Because he's been planning this reunion. They got everybody to sign off on it, and then Palin
said no.
changed his mind and said no. And then they cut to Palin explaining why. But it's like Idle's been trying to turn this thing that we love into something that can
Self-perpetuating and can make money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like self-perpetuating because it isn't also just a cash grab.
No,
like
no,
some
I
things
think
we've
he's
seen. He's trying to keep it alive in some sense.
There's a reference to a Gilliam fucking
Yeah.
things up financially.
Yeah.
Took over the
I thought it was
finances.
Gilliam's daughter.
Was it his
I think
daughter?
he used the term
Holly?
daughter, maybe.
That like Cleese brought her in or something like that, and it didn't work out or something.
Or else Idle is saying it's not working out, but it's still going on.
Yeah, something like that.
The thing to me that I find interesting is Idle's responses to the responses to that, because people naturally are upset by this. Because we would all like to think that these guys are all
best
incredibly
friends.
best friends
Yeah,
and
yeah.
love each other to pieces.
Yeah.
And Idle's like, I haven't talked to Cleese in 9 years or something like that,
Yeah,
or 7 years or whatever. And they were on tour like 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you remember this? The two of them.
Yeah.
Idle and Cleese. So it's sad to watch it all play out, but I do like Idle, and I do kind kind of like the way he's handled it.
Yeah.
You can't get any more. He seems really sharp.
Yes,
to
he
me.
is.
Idol has not lost
He's
anything.
always been the most acid and
Yeah, I
the
think
sharpest
so.
in that regard.
I think that's right.
And he hasn't lost it,
Yeah.
as he's gotten older, whereas Cleese is just out of his mind.
And then Gilliam has always had this propensity to say things that, almost like a shock jock.
Yeah.
And then he said something recently that seems somewhat unforgivable about Harvey Weinstein that I'm not even going to repeat.
Yeah.
So you kind of wonder
Yeah,
if these guys are just losing it a bit.
Well, I'm not nearly as old as they are, and I have
true.
I have my moments.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely do. Yeah.
Okay.
Background Noise Comic responds to that by saying, but only if you can figure out a way to work Doctor Who and The Empire Strikes Back into the conversation. I could work Doctor Who into it because
I'm going to edit it
there
out.
was a recent passing of an elderly actor that I accompanied from the airport to the hotel at a Doctor Who convention that wanted to explain to me how he actually really loves the and I kind of nodded.
Okay, who is this?
Well, maybe I shouldn't say. He's recently You know what? Never mind.
No,
but he was on Doctor Who.
I can edit it out.
Oh, that's true.
Because I'm curious now, because I've probably heard of him outside of Doctor Who.
I'll say this about Empire Strikes Back. One of the things that I find a little bit frustrating is, as an older person, I consider The Empire Strikes Back to be one of my favorite films, as I've mentioned before.
As
nowadays,
is mine.
The romance between Han Solo and Princess Leia is looked at as somewhat problematic and uncomfortable. And my first thought when I heard that was, fuck you! And then I kind of thought about it and looked at it, and I was like, yeah, I guess I get it, actually. Like, I don't think people are right that say that. It isn't that simple. Right. But I can understand why somebody would take that from it. And maybe nowadays acting like that isn't as cool as it would have been in 1979, you're saying, when they filmed it. She says no.
Okay,
and
he just kisses her.
Yeah. I mean, this shit's been going on for a long time.
This is nothing new.
I think Empire Strikes Back is pretty mild.
It's pretty minor compared to,
Yeah, that's all.
And
we still haven't gotten to the wise ass comments.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that wasn't a comment.
Oh my God.
I made a mistake.
I'm going to really hate this episode when I edit it. I'll tell you
that's that one. And then, let's see. Here, we have now reached the wise ass comments. All right, so we'll start with...
What do we got?
Mike Herman says...
Wouldn't be a wise ass without Mike.
I gush over Lugosi, but I can't help it because he makes up for a lot of the shortcomings of the movie. That Igor look where he devilishly arches his eyebrows takes that unflattering look at Chaney's prominent double chin out of mind. That's really true.
Yeah, that's true.
It's funny because we did mention it as a bad thing, but I kind of also talked about it as a good thing. So I could see.
I like the smile. It's just when he does the eyebrows, it's a little much. But
what's cool about it is the word arch, because he's actually being arch while he's arching his eyebrows. So I like that. And the double chin we probably didn't talk about. It is kind of absurd that even when he's laying down, he looks way heavier than.
Yeah.
All that
sulfur put on a lot of weight while the sulfur was hardening. It must have.
Remember when Jerry Lewis was on steroids?
Oh, Jesus!
There's a number of reasons you might look like that.
I hadn't seen him in years when that happened, and I saw him on something. Yeah. And I thought he was doing a bit, like with makeup on.
Oh God!
And I'm like, wait a minute,
because he kind of did look like a fat suit.
Looked like Mr. Creosote almost.
Yeah, Mr. Creosote. There you go.
And I'm like, wait a minute, no! Oh my God, that's him.
Yep. Yeah. Background Noise Comic replies, he's a well-fed monster.
Yes, he is.
The light and ink gave him the munchies.
Yes, it did. It must have.
We've
he's not nearly as well-fed as the Mummy is in a few years.
We're going to get all the comments out today. Catherine Jensen replies, should have flipped him when he started smoking. He'll be too done on one side. That is pretty good.
Very nice.
Oh, I like this one. This is great. Thanks. Charles Paulson notes, I hope you two talk about how great Evelyn Ankers is in this scene. She's putting in 110% whenever she's on screen. I did, and I mocked her.
I don't know. I've always enjoyed her every time she pops up, and she's in a lot of these.
Yeah, she is.
Much to her chagrin.
Yeah, true.
She's in like half of those Inner Sanctum movies, and
she's not in the best ones. She's not in the 30s ones. Yeah.
No, unfortunately. I mean, she's in The Wolfman. That's her biggest claim to fame, and that's a pretty good thing to have in your resume. But by the time she's in Jungle Captive or Captive Wild or whatever those, she's in a couple.
They all start to run run together.
Yeah, they're all the same movie.
Yeah.
We
were just looking through the Plex, and I put a bunch of Agatha Christie movies on the Plex, and now this will be a great trivia question for the people.
Right.
But we came upon one that has Charles Laughton, Elsa Lanchester, Una O'Connor, and the guy from The Body Snatcher, Henry Danielle. What? There's the question. This Agatha Christie penned film stars Charles Laughton, Elsa Lanchester, and Una O'Connor.
Trouble is, Agatha Christie stories are all the same, so I don't know enough. I've seen it.
Oh, I see what you mean. I thought that was a criticism, but yeah, you're right. They all kind of run together.
They all kind of run together.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I've never read any of her stuff.
No. What's weird is I've read a lot of the Sherlock Holmes.
I've read Sherlock Holmes. I'm actually now, I don't know why I got this bug up my ass, but I'm reading all of the Fu Manchu novels now.
Nice. Are there a lot of those?
There's like 14.
Who wrote those?
A guy named Sax Rohmer.
Okay, yeah.
His name's in all the
Was it because of this disc coming out?
I think that disc coming out, what we're looking at here is the Dr. Fu Manchu double feature that Kino Lorber just put out with Werner Olin playing the estimable Dr. Fu Manchu. So the mysterious Dr. Fu Manchu and Return of Dr. Fu Manchu from like 29 and 30. Mm-hmm. And they don't look like 29 and 30 movies. They look like a few years later.
I'm going to have to watch those.
By my best friend Roland V. Lee.
Yeah, right.
O.P. Heggie is in them.
That's right, you said.
As Nayland Smith.
Is he a hermit with a beard?
Or
would I wouldn't have
recognized him.
Yeah, I bet.
Except for his voice.
Okay.
And I've seen him in other things, but yeah, I think that's probably what precipitated it. And like, I wonder, because then I watched Mask of Fu Manchu just because it's so goofy and fun, and
it's fun.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
It's like a serial condensed into a feature film. The thing that
I remember saying this on our Karloff bonus episode from 4 years ago. The racism in it surprised me because it wasn't the racism I was expecting.
Yeah,
I expected it to be heavy on the anti-Asian.
Yeah, and it's
stuff.
the other way around.
The Asian stuff is actually. I'm a white guy, so maybe I'm off base here, but it seemed kind of mild. And especially since Karloff plays it with his regular accent.
Yeah, he doesn't do a phony, quote, Asian accent.
There's still the fact that he's the bad guy, and there's all that's associated with the way people looked at Asian. Yeah, and all that.
And it's much more pronounced, at least in the first two. That's as far as I've gotten.
Okay.
But they were written in like 1912 and 1913.
Yeah.
So you have to temper a lot of it through that filter. And I can't look at it like, oh my God, this is so fucking racist. I can't believe it. I'm surprised it's not more racist than it is.
Yeah. And maybe I sound like an old white guy, but the history of whatever we are, Caucasians, the West, the East and the West, has been one in which the East was generally a closed culture. It's a more closed culture. And then when you think about China today, it's a more closed culture. When you think of North Korea, it's just these areas that don't feel open, like like London. It's not like going to London.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, and then so you take it. That's me saying that now. You're talking over 100 years ago.
Yes.
It just must have been an amazingly mysterious place.
Yeah.
Maybe actual magic happens.
And to his credit, Sax Rohmer spent time there. Spent time with these people. Fu Manchu is actually based on
those people. Just kidding.
Okay. Fu Manchu is actually based vaguely on a real guy.
Oh yeah.
And he had tremendous respect for this culture. Huh. It was just filtered through the inherent racism of its time.
That makes sense.
And upper class England.
This entire digression is my fault. This is all about the fact that I saw. And we still have one more comment. This is the last one.
I'm going to split this episode in two.
This is a comment about this week's episode, so it's got to be included.
All right, we got to get it in.
Background noise comic comments. It's funny you single out the spinny neon thing. I've always disliked it. Most of the Strickfaden props are cool in their mechanical design or use of real electrical, I don't know what he said here, arc? Whatever. I don't know what it sounds like it's a typo. But the whirligig just screams Spencer's Gifts to me.
Yeah.
I do like the
whiny...
I think
that's the point I was kind of trying to make.
This week I think we made that point, strangely enough. So last week maybe we were a little more enamored of it. But he says, I do like the whiny sound it makes, which is straight out of a Flash Gordon serial.
Yeah.
So the Flash Gordon serials, what years are those? 30s?
They're before this.
Yeah, so the thing we were talking about this sort of how we get to the 50s.
Yeah.
I kind of forget. Flash Gordon's a big part of that too.
Well, Flash Gordon is like 36 in there because it uses sets props and music from Bride of Frankenstein
Oh yeah.
quite extensively.
Sets, huh?
The staircase from the Watchtower,
You probably told me this.
that's in like one shot.
You
in
did
Bride
tell
of,
me this.
in Bride of Frankenstein, there's this massive set that's in one shot. It's in a lot of Flash Gordon.
Interesting.
So they got their money out of it.
Oh, that's cool.
And
Well,
like
good.
there are actual clips from Frankenstein of the lab equipment edited and Bride edited into Flash Gordon.
And that's it. That's
All right.
all I'm gonna say.
That's good because I got to get going here.
Yeah, no kidding. Day's over.
Yeah,
Lunchtime.
it is.
Will